Welcome to Old School Sports and a new venture for us, playing Franchise Hockey Manager 8 as the New York Islanders. The reason we're playing as the New York Islanders is because they were a dynasty when I was in elementary school in New York, which made me become a fan of the team. And we're closing in on 40 years now since they have won a Stanley Cup, so that was not necessarily the best decision. But we are going to take over the Islanders, who were a team that did make it to the Eastern Conference Finals at the end of last season. But thus far in the 2021 to 2022 season, they've been quite mediocre. It looks like our goal is to only be in the playoff race, so it seems like our owner, Scott Malkin, is pretty realistic about the fact that although the Islanders may have the best coach in the NHL in Barry Trotz, the roster itself may leave a little bit to be desired. So we are going to spend a little time kind of cleaning up the roster. You can see it's Friday, September 17th of 2021, and we have a couple of weeks, or less than 2 weeks, till the preseason gets started. There's not too much available on the free agent list at this point. You can see Tuukka Rask is the highest rated player out there at this point, and he is injured. And then, there are a few other mainly wingers and goalies, a few centers who are there among the top players, but certainly nobody that jumps off the page and is going to be a huge difference maker for our team. So we will largely be going through the 2021 to 2022 season with the roster that we have today, with just a few modifications. But we will start trying to build the team in our vision during this season, and then certainly in next off season. So the goal is probably to be a playoff team this coming year, get a decent season done to build a little credibility with ownership, and then start making some more significant moves next off season. Looking at our goaltenders, I think we're in really good shape, although Varlamov is hurt for the next month or two. With him and Sorokin, very strong goaltending for the Islanders, and as you can see, have Varlamov for another 2 years and Sorokin signed for 3 years. So between the two of them, we're good for this year, next year, and potentially beyond. And then Jacob Skarek is a young prospect who will be in the minor leagues at Bridgeport for us this year, at least to start the season, but also has a lot of potential there. So feel pretty good about our goalie situation as we head into the beginning of the season. Probably not too much that we're going to look to change there. Defense, on the other hand, is an area where the Islanders are a bit thin. You can see Chara and Green are both at the end of their careers in terms of their age, and then Boychuk is out. Basically, his career is over too. We'll see whether or not we can potentially trade the contract to the Sabres or someone else. And then other than that, Dobson down at Bridgeport has good potential, but it's really about Pulock and Pelech. They're both signed for an extended period of time. Pelech for $5.75 million a year for the next several seasons, and then Pulock has also recently signed an extension at over $6 million a year. So both core players, 26 and 27 years old, that we're going to be building around. At some point, those contracts may become a little difficult for us, in which case we may have to look to offload one of them. But I want to try to build a team with strong defensemen, and certainly having the two of them in the lineup gives us two good defensive defensemen to build around. I just feel that other than those two, there's not really a ton here. So that is definitely an area that if we cannot upgrade during this season, we'll certainly be looking to next off season, whether by free agent or trade. And then looking at our forwards, it's a little bit mixed. Pretty happy with what we have at center with Cizikas, Peugeot, Nelson, and Barzal. I think we're pretty solid there. At some point, some of those contracts may get a little unwieldy in the coming years. Right wing, we're going to be building around Wallstrom for the long term. Probably have some work to do there because, as you can see, the other four right wingers who potentially will make the major league team for this season are all on the wrong side of 30 and some decently sized contracts. So could be doing something there over the long term. And then at left wing, it's really all about Anders Lee and Beauvillier. Signed for 5 years and 3 years. The rest of the pieces there are not as strong. Bellows maybe grows into something worthwhile. Martin and Johnston are both kind of replacement level type players who we can certainly have room for, but can probably find someone to replace them if we need. And then Parisi's obviously near the end of his career at this point, so feel pretty good at goalie, decently good at forward and defense, but definitely potential to do more work with our wingers in particular and our defensemen over the remainder of this season and then certainly next off season. So you would think that heading into the 2022 to 2023 season, our roster would look different than it looks like right now. Looking at our coaching staff, not really a ton that we need to change. As I mentioned, Barry Trotz is, pretty much as highly regarded a coach as you are ever going to find, both in terms of his coaching ratings as well as his miscellaneous ratings. We'll be very happy to have him coaching the team for as long as he's willing. And you can see that in terms of some of our assistant coaches, we've got some pretty good capabilities across goalies, defensive, offensive, and even skills. We did sign a new trainer who has more trainer skill than our previous trainer, and we have bolstered our scouting corps, adding a few scouts around the world to kind of round out our scouting effort as we begin our first season. But not a ton to do there. Really good coaching staff, so no big changes to make there. We did sign one additional coach who's not even responsible for any of the four key skills in the game, just to give us a little flexibility in terms of if someone wants a ridiculous contract going forward, we've got someone solid to kind of plug into those different positions going forward. So feeling pretty good about the team as we prepare for the start of the season. We will make a few moves in the coming weeks, potentially to get ready for the preseason and then during the preseason, and figure out exactly what the roster is going to look like next month when we head into the start of the 21-22 regular season. Well, we've made it through the preseason, and as you can see, Matthew Barzal had a fantastic preseason with 12 points, just one off the league lead, and 7 goals, also just one off the league lead. So we will see how the regular season goes shortly. Made just a few transactions to talk about, nothing incredibly major, just kind of cleaning up the roster a little bit. We traded Matt Martin and Johnny Boychuk for a couple of late picks to the Maple Leafs. We made a somewhat larger trade. I had mentioned we wanted to try to improve our defense, and we traded for Sean Walker from the Kings. We gave them rights to a couple of young players who I don't think had a big future with us, as well as several draft choices to get that done, but nothing particularly high. And then at the end of the preseason, when we were preparing our final cuts, we traded Thomas Hickey to Ottawa for a 7th-round draft choice. Hickey, 32-year-old, making $2.5 million, and probably was our 6th or 7th defenseman. So let him go. So looking at the roster, the addition of Walker into our defense is the most substantive change that we were able to make during the preseason. And then looking at our injury list, Varlamov is hurt for the next week or two. So that's not optimal. And then Sebastian Aho, who is probably going to be, a 6th or 7th defenseman or potentially end up in Bridgeport, is also out for a couple of weeks. So he is on the injury list. So when Varlamov is healthy, presumably we'll send Schneider down to Bridgeport. And then once Aho is healthy, we'll have to make a choice between him and perhaps Mayfield, maybe Andy Green. Some of our weaker defensemen who are borderline roster spots at this point. So that will do for the introduction to Franchise Hockey Manager 8 and the introduction to our playthrough of the Islanders. We will be back in our next episode with the 2021-2022 season. Thanks so much for watching. If you've enjoyed this, please subscribe, and we will be back soon.